So hello there and welcome. We are live right here in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. It is March the 30th, 3 p.m., and we're about ready to start. I will tell you that there is a little problem with Zoom meetings these days because the programs are so popular. People are doing lots of Zoom meetings, so sometimes it goes very slowly, and sometimes we have to go from one segment to the other with a little bit of crazy stuff in between. So don't be surprised. Don't worry about it. We'll get through the information so that you can become unplugged. This is Pathways to Health and Happiness during these challenging times. And it's going to result in you being unplugged, and I'll explain that later, but you need to get unplugged from what we consider as normal, because these days, in case you have noticed, there is no normal going on right now. So I'm Dr. Tom Ashton, and I'm going to be addressing some very important situations today, but I'll start out with a little bit of information about why I am here doing this now. As you know, we're in a pandemic, we're in a crisis. Everyone is feeling that. I have felt it myself in my own surgical practice. I have a small surgery center, which the governor has shut down basically, so that we might conserve supplies for people that are in dire straits and need help. So I'm perfectly willing to do that, but I can't sit still and do nothing. So I'm doing these webinars so that I can disseminate some information, not only on getting through this crisis that we're facing now, but getting through all the crises that are going to come along in our lives. And I speak as an authority on that because I've been a surgeon for 40 years in solo practice. So I know a lot about stuff like that because I have seen a lot. I've been involved in many critical situations and figured out some secrets. I did a lot of research, and I came up with the information that you'll find in my books that I write, and we're going to review some of that stuff during our webinars. So I'm Dr. Tom Ashton, and let's get started right away with our slides. You'll see that we're arranging that. There we go. So here we are, Pathways to Health and Happiness. And slide number 1, I want to ask you a very important question. What is your biggest problem right now? And if anyone cares to answer that question, you may do so in the chat space over there, which you can see. Just give it a thought and tell me, what right now is your biggest problem during this crisis? Making money. Okay, I got it. I'm in the same boat. I'm making no money right now, and most people are making no money. So anyone else care to volunteer a problem that they're facing? I'm going to give you 2 seconds here. You're bored. Okay, that's a huge problem. Sitting around, there's nothing to do, and you're bored. Got it. I'm going to address that little situation too. So let me ask you something. Here we go. Individual not abiding by social distancing and doing what they should to protect everyone. That is a huge problem. And we're also going to address that problem too today. And we're going to come up with some solutions to that for you to consider. But let me ask you something. You definitely have fear. I understand that. Let me ask you some very specific questions about what's going on right now. Do you have electricity? Do you have hot water? Do you have food? Is there a possibility that the government may come up with a financial program that is going to, in fact, get money into your hands? So really, what is your biggest problem right now? I think that I would like to compare what's going on in this country to what's going on in the former Soviet Union. And I have firsthand knowledge about that because I'm married to a person that was raised and has family in the former Soviet Union. Do you know what their biggest problem is right now? All stores are closed. All stores are empty. There is no hot water. There's no banking. There's no way to obtain money. There's no way to go anywhere. All of the public transportation is shut down. No one can afford to drive a car because there is no petrol. So I ask you, why not think about how much gratitude you should have for living in this country at this time? So maybe it's possible to let go of your fear and focus on the goal. What is the goal? Our goal is to experience the least amount of problems and death that we can during this pandemic. And of course, the best way and the only way to do that is to physically separate socially. So I think that if you look at the big picture, we are indeed lucky to be here where we are at this time. Let's look at the bright side of that. Now, if you have many questions, any pressing questions about the COVID-19 epidemic, there is a new app that was recently released at the request of the administration. Apple has come up with a free app that's available on their phones. It's also available on Androids, and it has promised to be up to the minute information on what you should do, what's happening, and it's right there. And later on, we're going to talk about what you're going to be doing during this time frame where you're bored and you have fear about what's going to happen. But one of the things to avoid being so fearful is to stay up to the up-to-date facts and not depend on, for example, cable news networks that's going to give you the slant one way or the other, because they're after what? They're after people to watch their programs, so they're going to be very, very slanted one way or the other. This app is going to tell you the facts so that you'll understand what there is to fear and what there is to not fear. But social distancing is the only way to stop the pandemic. Be aware our state is under invasion from folks escaping hotspots of infection, especially from New York, Connecticut, New Jersey. All the more reason to stay home, cook your own meals. And this last sentence is something we're going to be driving home today. Learn to take personal responsibility. This ability to take personal responsibility is going to carry you through not only this particular episode, but future episodes as well, because we know that there is no status quo. Things are always changing, but learn to take personal responsibility. This is a big item. Now, it might not shock you to hear that our respected and entrenched institutions are failing us. I'm doing these seminars after 40 years of surgical practice, and after many years of inquiry and research, I've discovered many disturbing trends in our approach to health, nutrition, exercise, and even spirituality. Rather than having an orientation toward the mind, body, spirit connection, I have discovered that our medical system and many other of our entrenched systems are oriented toward money, making money before service. The government is oriented toward elections and pleasing big pharmacological companies and other corporations before service. We now consider this as a normal situation. We are going to unplug from the insanity of this status quo and evolve our thinking as well as our behavior into an entirely new, sustainable direction. We're going to begin taking personal responsibility for our choices in every aspect of our lives. It has become painfully obvious that in this environment of uncertainty and chaos, there are no other reasonable options. So you're going to want to follow these teachings and take control of your life, all of it, not just now, but you have an amazing opportunity over the next 3, 4, 5 weeks, who knows how long, to take control of your life. And taking control of your life can be amazingly uplifting. Our respected and entrenched institutions are failing us. By taking control, you can eliminate fear from your life. Now, there are thousands of government employees and politicians bickering over this disaster and all the other disasters we encounter in our country. They all agreed that it needs to be fixed. As we witness the raging discourse, the anger, the frustration, the drama, and the incrimination, it is clear that there is no consensus possible or even likely. They are not likely to work this out. There is a solution. There is one solution, and it rests in our hands, your hands and my hands. We must unplug our confidence and dependency from politicians, no matter which side of the aisle they support. But fear not, there is a solution, and although it may seem difficult, it is not. By taking certain common sense measures, choosing positive affirmative actions, we can become our own best physicians. Let's take steps that will eliminate the fear by reducing uncertainty. Uncertainty. Uncertainty is what leads to fears. And we're going to talk about the fears that we have. Now, you're here today, most likely because you fear you may not be getting enough information. You fear what's going to happen in the future, and it's all uncertain. There are 6 basic fears that we all experience as we go through life. We fear old age. We fear poverty. We fear loss of love. We fear criticism. We definitely fear death, and we fear ill health. These are the most common fears that we face. So maybe these fears can be summarized by saying we all fear the unknown and we fear uncertainty. The question then becomes, what is it about the unknown that precipitates fear? And if all the unknown would become known, what would eliminate all fear? Think carefully about these common fears. We will see that our lives and most of our activities, thoughts, beliefs, motivations are based on these fears. Are you motivated almost exclusively by fear? I know the answer to that question, perhaps better than you, because I understand that you're here because of fear, and you may not be comfortable admitting it, but you are fearful that someday you will not have enough. You know you are getting older, less vital, less energetic, and maybe even less beautiful. You strive to avoid criticism, and you fear that even close members of your family may not love you. You see older folks losing their health, Outwardly, you may deny this fear, but deep inside you know that you may face ill health someday. You will die someday. You try to avoid these thoughts. I try to avoid these thoughts, but it's a fact. Your life on planet Earth will end, and it will end after a life of chaos and suffering. This is the thought process that we are going to unplug from. This is a normal process of thinking, but we are unplugging from normal. Relax. I want you to relax. The journey you are taking here into an awareness will render your fears completely and utterly irrelevant. I know that is a big statement. That is a huge statement. All of your fears can become completely and utterly irrelevant. How crazy do I sound? Yeah, I know. Pretty crazy. Well, we can continue to make a list of fears as long as forever, but no matter what our concerns are, you can reduce your fears right this moment, right now. You can feel better simply by doing something. Now, we're going to talk about the 5 things you're going to do and implement so that you will render your fears completely and utterly irrelevant. Stick with me here. Humor me for a little bit. Let's do this. So, the next 5 items are called immediate, proactive decisions. I'm going to ask you to make 5 immediate proactive decisions. We're going to call those IPDs, immediate proactive decisions. So what I want you to do as we talk about each one, it's going to be on your screen. And what I suggest you do is take a picture of that with your phone or write it down on pen and paper so that you will remember these 5 immediate proactive decisions. And then I'm going to ask you to, over the next several days, think about these 5 decisions that I'm asking you to make. Now, think about this. I know what I'm talking about. I have been through this. I am I was where you are now. Now I have rendered all my fears as completely and utterly irrelevant. I've had the experience, I've done the research, and I've put this to the test. And I'm here to tell you that we need this now. Our country and you and all of us need this now. So here is the first one. You're going to feel better by making, maybe take a picture of this, immediate proactive decisions. Immediate proactive decision number 1, I am going to control my own thoughts, my intentions, and thus my destiny. We accomplish this by unplugging. First, now under this category, number 1, there's going to be a list of things you must do to accomplish this. First, get unplugged from the 6 or 8 or 12 or 18 hours a day that you spend in front of the television. Oh, this is a difficult one at this time because you're stuck and you're bored and you're fearful. So you keep watching the news, watch this cable, watch that cable. You hang on every nuance that someone says. It's going to be the worst thing that's ever happened. It's going to be okay. No, it's not going to be okay. We're all going to have no money, no food, no toilet paper. Oh my God, the sky is falling. So I want you to become unplugged from that. Now, do you need to stay informed? Absolutely. That's why I suggested that app that's available to you on your iPhone. You just go to the App Store, and every once in a while during the day, maybe in the morning, you can check it. In the evening, you can check it. In between, what are you going to do with all that time? What I suggest is you have to imagine yourself in your own imagination, what it's going to be like on the other side of this pandemic. Will you have wasted 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 8 weeks, 3 months? Will you have sat there and moaned and groaned and wasted your time? Or are you going to evolve? I'm suggesting that if you take that time, instead of watching the television for all that time and becoming more and more upset, you decide in your imagination, what do you want to be at the end of this? And then you start Googling on your computer the subjects that you're interested in. What do you want to become? Maybe you want to become more fit. So Google an exercise program and get in tune with that exercise program and do something about your physical fitness. Maybe you're interested in nutritional excellence, which you should be. So why don't you go on your internet and learn how to be the best chef you can possibly be by using what? Plant-based foods. That is nutritional excellence. At the end of 2 months, you're going to be so fit and so happy and so expert that your life will take a new trajectory. So television, the assault on your mind, is destroying your ability to think in positive, affirmative ways. It matters not which cable news channel you're watching or what programs you're addicted to. You are surrendering your most important, most powerful force of calm and balance. You are giving up control of your thoughts, your intentions, and thus your destiny goes out the window. You are polluting your most important asset, your ability to think. You're giving it all up to the powers of suggestion. The powers of suggestion, it's a very powerful, unrecognized force that blocks your spontaneous instincts and intuition. You are blocking your subconscious mind from helping you achieve great things by the use of the powers of suggestion that these programs funnel into your subconscious mind. You're accepting negative propaganda. You're accepting exaggerated claims, distortions, and in many cases, outright lies. I have found that watching cable news network reporting of the news is no longer news reporting. It's a system of creating drama, teaching propaganda, slanted in one direction or the other. It's teaching hate. It's teaching division. And in my opinion, sometimes it's even teaching things that are treasonous. Some of these teachings are designed to bring down our country. I have decided to do my own thinking, my own evaluations, and ignore the sky is falling mentality. The sky is not falling. This is not a catastrophe like World War II. It's not. It is a definite problem. We will get through this. IPD number 2, I am going to trust myself to myself. Please write that down and let me explain. I have found in my experience, 40 years of surgical training, 76 years of life, I'm sorry to say that you cannot trust anyone except yourself. Do not trust stupid news. News programs are so politically biased, exaggerated, or minimized that you never really get the facts and nothing but the facts. Television networks are peddling drama and making fortunes by selling stupid commercials. They use humor, drama, sex, guilt, and fear to convince you to buy something that you do not need. And in most cases, it's things you never even thought you could possibly need. Their claims are either misleading or completely false. Your mind and your shopping are under their control. Power of suggestion is taking over your mind and taking over your subconscious and stifling your destiny. Suddenly, you run into a commercial on television that is produced by Big Pharmacy. First, to convince you that you need this drug. This rash you have is ruining your life. You must have this drug, and it will solve this problem. Then they list the reasons why you are absolutely crazy if you take this drug because of all the side effects. So what do? If I can't follow that, I'll call my doctor. Oh, I'm a doctor, so I know what's going on here. It's the money. Doctors these days are functioning under stress overload. Many have to see 60 or 70 patients in a day just to equal the income that they made 5 years ago. Let me tell you something. When I came here in this community in 1984, I did a lot of trauma and I did a lot of work in the hospital. One of the main operations we did was gallbladder disease, something called cholecystectomy. That means we remove the gallbladder. And we went through a lot of additional training so that we could do this through the scope and not using an incision. I was one of the first physicians in this county to do the cholecystectomy operation through a scope so that people could go home the very next day rather than being in a hospital for a week. So when I was doing this procedure, I was paid $2,500 for the pre-op, post-op, the actual surgical procedure, and however many office visits were required to make sure that patient was healthy. $2,500. When I left the process of being a general surgeon, when I bailed out to do something else, they were paying $450 for that very same procedure. So in other words, to maintain the level of income to which my practice was adjusted to, I would have to do 5 times as many operations as I did before. There was no way I could do that. There's no way I could take care of patients by doing that. Now, in these days, can you actually trust a prescription that a doctor hands you? Can you trust that that will solve your problem? Because they rarely treat the cause of your problem. Many times they treat only your symptom. By spending 15 minutes or less with you, there's no chance that that script will give you relief, only symptomatic relief. It won't take care of your problem. And it may be harmful, it may be addictive, or it may be both. And there's a case in point, 2 cases. Number one, antibiotics are unnecessary and dangerous nearly 80% of the time. That means if in your last 3 years or so you've had 10 antibiotic prescriptions, 8 of those prescriptions were not only unnecessary, but dangerous. Now, why is that so? Let's take a minute. Let's talk about why antibiotics are dangerous. And believe me, this all fits together into your mental status. Feeling good, being healthy, wealthy, and wise should include the very, very minimal use of antibiotics because antibiotics destroy the bacteria in your intestinal tract that is very, very necessary for the absorption of many vital vitamins and trace elements. Even blood sugar control is in the hands of bacteria. We call them the microbiome. If you wipe out your microbiome, you're messing up your body. Even they have found that patients that have had repeated episodes of using antibiotics are much more likely to develop dementia and Alzheimer's. So your mind and your thinking depends on doing the right things. And 80% of the time, a doctor is not doing the right thing. Stupid news, commercials, big farm, your doctor, causing a lot of trouble. You cannot trust them with your health. Who can you trust? Hint, here's a hint to where this is all going. The real medicine is in your food, your lifestyle, your mental state. And so sorry, your doctor cannot control any of that. So it's up to, you guessed it, it's up to you. That's why I'm pushing personal responsibility in our list of decisions you must come to make. So let's move on to number 3. Decision number 3, I am going to practice the advice I get here, or in some other book, somewhere else, you're going to be hearing this same lesson given to you. Pay attention to this. Google it. Find out what is the meaning of nutritional excellence. Google what it means to take too many antibiotics. Practice the advice that you're going to get, because without implementation, it does you no good. You're wasting your time right here learning these decisions that you should be making. You must have implementation. So let me ask you, how much of what you do and what you think is dictated by others? Don't trust other entities, because in all cases, humans and human institutions will always act in their own self-interest. All can be good if their self-interest coincides with yours, but if that happens, it's purely coincidental. And in rare conditions, sometimes we even call it synchronicity. Living an amazing life by avoiding being played by others. Assume the responsibility of your own positive intentions. Even if we contemplate the very strong power of love, we know it can be magic and insanely powerful, especially if the feeling is mutual within a relationship. Love can enhance and sustain a connection to another person through good times and bad times. Oh, it's wonderful. It remains pure and powerful and beautiful as long as both parties are fulfilling their self-interest. As soon as one or the other does not satisfy their self-interest with the relationship, it becomes hasta la vista, baby, and another relationship is broken. Can you unplug long enough to apply some of these enhancing ideas? Why not? Where you are now is a good place to start. Number 4, I am going to seek validation from myself, not others. How much of what you do and what you think is dictated by others? It's no secret why so many of us depend on validation from others, to have a feeling of being heard or being acknowledged, not being dismissed. It's an incredible rush to be validated by others. But think about the contrary. If we don't feel validation, this makes us feel uncomfortable, defeated, and sometimes even worthless. This discomfort is so motivating that it becomes the primary driver of our behaviors, our attitudes, our worldview, and most of our unhappiness. We might have been born perfect, but through the need for validation, we become slaves and victims to other people. So we need to become self-validated. Self-validation is the answer. And how do we become self-validated? Is it so difficult to validate yourself, to put yourself in charge? I'm going to unplug from my addictive behaviors by defining my true nature. That's number 5. And I put that there because number 5 is the basis of all other activities. Defining your true nature. We must define our true nature. Does anyone have any feeling that you would want to write as to what is your true nature? I'll watch the chat box to see if anyone is still awake here. The reason that you can be self-validated is because I'm going to explain to you in a few minutes why you are the latest and greatest version of 500 million years of evolution on this planet. Unbounded awareness. That's great. Unbounded awareness. The awareness you need to instill in yourself is you are the latest and greatest version of a 500 million year evolutionary process. You are perfect just the way you are. And now we're going to go to me. We're going to come back and I'm going to talk about why you are the latest version of this 500 million year evolutionary process. Now this gets a little difficult to explain, and that's why you're coming to me and not just on a slide. Because I want to instill in you why you're so special. Now we know we're in the middle of a pandemic. We know that this particular problem started with one person, and now the entire world is plagued with this disease. Doesn't that show you how interconnected the whole planet is? Doesn't that show you that we are, in fact, all one vital organism? And therefore, why should we not work together to solve this problem? Now, if you are not, let's say, for example, you do not stay home and you do not physically separate, and you have no care in the world about who you infect or what happens, you just want to go have a good time. There's lots of people out there like that, but let me tell you what happens. That one person, we know from statistics, that one person can infect 2 other people. And then the 2 become 4, and the 4 become 8, and the 8 becomes 16, and the 16 become 32, and then we go to 64, and then to 128, and then 256, and on it goes. And even if you just go up to 2,448 people, that one person can ruin in a detrimental way the lives of 2,400 plus people just by their one selfish act. Now, what are you doing? You're not doing that. You're staying home. You're on a webinar. You're trying to improve yourself. And you are, in fact, an amazing person. Now, let me tell you how amazing you are and how perfect you are, because what you're doing, in essence, you, by your actions, staying home, doing the right thing, becoming the latest version of God's greatest vision, you are eliminating disease in over 2,448 people and beyond, maybe millions of people. If one person didn't get the disease, the whole nation wouldn't get the disease. Understand how important you are as an individual, especially when you understand your true nature. Your true nature is perfection because you were created through perfection. The Big Bang situation that occurred 15 billion years ago, everything that exists now was there during the Big Bang. That means we were all together, like twins are together in the uterus. We were all together in that one little spot billions of years ago. And then we manifested into many diversified things, many galaxies, many planets. Check our solar system out. Isn't it perfect? We have the sun that gives us all the things we need to grow and for everything to exist on our planet to make life perfect for us, perfect for all sentient beings, perfect for the plants. The plants are perfect for us because they give us oxygen. They give us the ability to transmit energy from the sun through their plant products into our bodies, full of minerals and vitamins and all the wonderful things we need to be us. And all of these things were created billions of years before you even existed. So everything was perfect. And then 500 million years ago, life was created on this planet, and you are the direct result of that life. You came from a perfect source, and therefore you are perfect. Now, why don't you think you're perfect? It's because of your domestication. The culture in which you landed has taught you from day one that you're not perfect. The most powerful word you heard during your upbringing was, no, you can't do that. No, you're not good enough. No, no, no. And in subtle ways, you began to believe that you weren't perfect, but you are still perfect because your consciousness is perfect. And your consciousness, as we know through a lot of scientific evidence now, your consciousness, not your body, is immortal. So you are an immortal being and you are therefore perfect. So I'm suggesting maybe it's time we start acting like the perfect beings that we really are. Maybe it's time to start instilling the 4 pillars of a beautiful, productive, servicing type of life through the 4 pillars, which I discussed before. And we'll talk about those again. Nutritional excellence, mostly plant-based foods. Physical superiority, taking care of your body by moving and exercising and having fun and being an active person, not sitting and watching 18 hours of television, even now during these critical times. The other one is financial abundance. If you do 1 and 2, and you have the time to prepare your life for endeavors on this planet, those endeavors would include serving others with empathy. If you can develop that, you will absolutely develop financial stability, because we need people to be helping others in service, and people will pay for that. So assure your financial stability by learning ways to serve others and do it with empathy. Your success will depend on how many people you help in any given time frame. And then the 4th one is cosmic unity, which is what I just discussed. You are one with not only our planet, but with the entire universe, because we all came from the same source. So, what do you think? Any questions? Feel free. I'm going to turn my attention over here now to this. Sit back and just sit back and come back. What? Okay. So, stay inside, people. Yay. Unbounded awareness. How do I know if my immune status is good? Okay, that's a very good question, because that is really appropriate for what's going on in this day and age, in these times. Our immune system is dependent upon nutritional excellence, physical superiority, cosmic unity, and financial stability. But you can tell if you're not in good immune shape by looking at yourself. Are you overweight? Are you under-exercised? Are you miserable in your thought processes? Negative, negative, negative. Have you taken a lot of antibiotics over the years? All these things can work on your immunity. And if your immunity is strong, yes, you may get a virus, but you wouldn't necessarily die from that virus because your immunity is strong. But we have science now, and it's amazing what we've come up with. We actually have a way of determining the level of immunity that's in our body by a simple little test that we can do in the office. The office test takes 5 minutes, and it will tell you exactly on a scale of 0 to 10 where you stand with your immunity status. Now, in my last Ask the Expert column, I told people that I would be happy to get this test done for them. You would go to my website, which would allow you to order the test for yourself. You have to come into the office, and of course, we take all due precautions. We take your temperature, make sure, we ask you questions, and then we do this little test, and we can tell you your actual level from 1 to 10 about how you're doing with your immune processes. This actually measures antioxidants in your bloodstream. And this is a very important aspect of immunity. If your antioxidants are low, your immunity is low. How do I replace the microbiome to improve gut health? Okay, so that's a very good question, because it's very easy to do. Probiotics are available in every pharmacy. First thing you should do is, avoid antibiotics as much as you possibly can. That's the first thing you should do. Second thing is take an adequate supply on a daily basis, probiotics. And this is important even if you haven't taken antibiotics, because our diets, our normal diets, which includes animal products, which are very high in omega-6 fatty acids, are inflammatory. The inflammation can ruin your gut bacteria as well. So a good diet, and adding to that probiotics, a little capsule you take every day that has the good bacteria that you need in your gut. I heard in the news that Advil is bad to take if you have or think you have the virus. Is this true? Okay, this is an anecdotal report. Several people have noticed, doctors and institutions have noticed, that some people that have been taking Advil and aspirin don't do as well in the long run as people that avoid those two medications. There's no studies that I'm aware of that proves that, but for the time being, I'm not giving my children and I'm not giving my family those. I'm going to avoid aspirin, and I'm going to avoid Aleve and Advil. I'm going to use Tylenol. If there's a pain problem or a fever, Tylenol is the way to go. I'm sure that some more studies will be coming out about this. And one way you can continue to stay on top of it is use your COVID-19 app that you can get on your phone. It will be right there as soon as that information becomes available. I'm sure it's going to be out there. So we're moving along. It's getting late. I would encourage you to review these 5 decisions that you should be making and figure out how you're going to make those decisions and how you're going to stay on top of that. So we're going to reconvene a similar webinar like this on Thursday, this coming Thursday at 3 o'clock. You'll get a notification and you'll be able to enroll. And I want you to tell your friends, we have an important message here. We need to be sharing this message. Let's get together. Let's be a team. We have people on board now. Let's work this. Let's create something amazing and help people feel good and help them get through this. You can do it. Remember, your success depends on how many people you've helped today or tomorrow. So this is Dr. Tom Ashton. I'll see you on Thursday.